That's what people used to do. They'd be doing this crazy, like, ah, glow to the gods. Do you remember? Hi, I hope you're all well. If you are new around here, hello. It's lovely to meet you. And if you are returning, thank you very fucking much for coming back. My name is Alanna. I'm a 37-year-old lady living in Scotland, and that is where my accent is from. And on this channel, we predominantly talk all things beauty, skincare, hair care, lifestyle, travel-y, bloggery, vloggery, bullshit. But with a liberal sprinkling of sarcasm and cynicism thrown in on top. Now, I do like the odd sweary word on this channel. If you're not into that kind of thing, please feel free to vacate. But if you do like that kind of thing, get yourself a cup of tea, coffee, whatever the fuck you like. There's a little subscription button down below. Give it a wee thumbs up, all that other YouTuber bullshit, basically. Now, today's video is lengthy. I know, all my videos are, I'm really sorry. I just like to fucking chat. But I am taking you a trip down memory lane. I am going to reach into the archives, some of the oldest makeup that I own. There we go, I'm just showing you some of the bits and bobs now. There's a MAC palette here as well. But we are taking some old ass makeup and we're putting it on my face today. And we're seeing if it is still worth the hype, if it is still as good, is it still made, and should we still be hyping it up? So let's just see if it stood the test of time. Alright, so I have been excited to make this video for a couple of reasons, because I like looking at things that are sentimental to me makeup wise, but also just let's see if things are gonna live up to what the hype was back then. I'm going to show you things that aren't necessarily all viral products. I don't think they were called viral back then, but like popular products back then. Just for a little forewarning here, I was a huge Urban Decay, a little bit of MAC kind of gal back in the day, okay? I have got rid of a lot of things over the years, either passed them on to people because they've not worked for me, either that or they are just out of date and not safe to use. But I'm going to be putting a lot of stuff on my face here that is clearly over a decade old. So, if you have anything to say about that in the comments, this might not be the video for you. Just take it away. But I'm going to start off with basic products. Now, I'm going to have a chat. Some of them I don't have here, but I'm thinking about things that spring to mind. We're talking 2010 to 2014 era. Do you remember the kind of smoothing primers? I'm sure we still get them. Not quite e.l.f. putty primers. We're not talking about that, or Tatcha, whatever it was, way before that. The one I'm particularly thinking of, I think it was to rival maybe Smashbox at the time, the Gosh one. Do you remember this? It was a clear one, super duper silicone-y, made you feel like you had smooth skin, but ultimately not something that I would use now, just making you feel slippy. But see, when that product first launched, it was like, wow, like we've never seen anything like this before. People went wild for it. I remember everybody talking about this. There were some people talking about the higher end ranges, but ultimately I remember a lot of people on YouTube at the time talking about the Gosh primer. So I've hopefully put a little photo in here so you can see the one I'm on about. I do not own any primers like that now. I think a few years back I picked one up just to try it out again as a little bit of a reminiscent video. No, they're not for me. I don't use them anymore, so I am not going to put that on my face today. But also, around about that time, we had some full, heavy coverage foundations. We were baking, we were contouring. Does anybody remember is it the RMCA powder? Was that what it was called? This one right here. This is still available. You can get this now on Beauty Bay. Nobody talks about this anymore. Do we remember this? Do people remember this? Please tell me you do. It is £15, right? But you get like a whack of product, right? I have never owned it. I've never really been a powder gal. I've never really been a full coverage kind of gal, okay? But I did own a Vichy one. I don't know if you'll remember that, but it was like one I could get in Boots. At the time when people were going crazy about the RCMA powder, you couldn't get it here. You were having to get it from America. A lot of the products that I think I see hyped now from that 2010 to 2014 era were a lot of like American YouTubery people talking about it, and a lot of the time it was quite difficult to get your hands on where I was. So quite a lot of things I didn't own, quite a lot of things I did once they arrived here, but it was a few years after the hype, so I'm not gonna lie. But I had a Vichy one that was similar, and I feel like we started off with all this kind of like full base, full bake, blah blah blah. When I looked back at what was the most popular products from like 2014, 2010, 2012, one of the things that kept coming up was the Body Shop Honey Bronzer. Now, they were talking about the powder one, but I on this channel always used to talk about the Honey Bronze Liquid Bronzer from the Body Shop. It ain't called that anymore. It's now called Drops of Sun. Now, this even, you know, what is the shelf life on this? 12 months. This is easily about 3 or 4 years old. Easy. And I remember going back in to pick this up, looking for Honey Bronze, and they didn't have it anymore. This is a liquid bronzer. Can you see it running down my hand there? So I feel like I did used to do a little bit of liquid bronzing. A little before my time, if I have to say so. But the reason being, because I quite liked the underpainting of it. Now, I still think this is a nice product. Let's see if it's still nice after fucking 4 years and it's maybe out of date. Is it smelly? Let me just open it and tell you. It smells absolutely fine. It smells okay. Sometimes, I know there's like, you know, what do you call it? Preservatives and stuff like that you need to, whatever, watch and makeup. Sometimes I think it's just to get us to buy more stuff. I'm not gonna lie. So what I'm gonna do is a little bit of underpainting. So we're bringing modern things into old products. That's what I'm trying to do today. I loved this stuff. I loved this liquid bronzer. It's very, very natural on the skin. It makes it look like what I would go like in the sun. I am a very pale ghost, I know that, but I do actually take a tan as well. My dad was very, very dark and took the sun really well, so I do tan in the sun. So we're doing a little underpainting, because again, that's what the kids seem to be into nowadays. So that is a little bit of that bronzer on the face. It is very subtle. So this should be still available. I'm saying that, I don't definitely know. It's lovely still. It's really nice. I still swear by it. I think it's lovely. That's the whole point of this video. Either because you already own it, you don't need a new one, or maybe you weren't aware of it and you're like, oh, and it's not getting enough hype anymore because it's old and nobody talks about it. It's not literally old, mine's is, but the product is literally old. It's kind of been out for 10 years and nobody's speaking about it anymore. I have always been minimal coverage with regards to skin, but eyeshadow? Bitch, eyeshadow I could buy like it was going out of fucking fashion. I'm going to take you into a whole world of ALANNA's sentimental stuff here. So, first of all, I'm going to bring up these two. These I bought easily when I was like between 17 and 19 years old. I am now 37. These are 20 years old. I was wondering if anybody remembers, there was the original Urban Decay shadows, alright? And they came in pots similar to this, but not quite this. And there was the little like, remember the little like, was it the Rockstar palette as well? Like the chainmail? Remember that one? My friend had that, I'll never forget it. Many a night out it came on. But these ones were the deluxe eyeshadows. And this one is Graffiti. And my God, did I use it when I was 17. It looks like it's not been panned, but oh my, if you've seen it on the side there, it's got such a dent in it. I used it all the fucking time. I loved it. And this one here is called Sting. This one I actually ended up picking up in TK Maxx a little further on, but I did have one called Honey as well the same time I bought this, which was a beautiful yellow gold colour. Urban Decay have since brought out a honey palette, a naked honey palette. Originally, Honey was one of these shades and it was beautiful. Mine smashed. I did keep it in a little pot for a while as a loose powder, but it had seen better days. But I still keep this one because I feel like this was my first ever high-end purchase, because Urban Decay was in that kind of more high-end, not luxury, but a high-end brand. I fucking loved them. They were totally different from other brands at the time. They're a little, they've lost their way a bit. Urban Decay, that's how I feel. But I hope they're kind of getting back to their roots a little, the way I've been seeing things lately. But this one, look, the lid is actually, just came off the top of this one. It's holding it together here. This one is called Sting, and it is this beautiful, like, burgundy red colour. The both of them are what I would say are a satin. And if you remember, so these were the deluxe eyeshadows. These came out first. They then started to release the Vice palettes. And I feel like the formula of the Vice palettes, if you remember them, were the same as the deluxe eyeshadows. I only have one Vice palette to show you, and it is the Vice 4, I want to say. Vice 3 or Vice 4. Can't quite remember. Does anybody remember what this one is? Oh, This has been used to death. Look at it. If that's not a well-loved eyeshadow palette, I don't know what is. This one has fell out completely. I don't even remember what colour this was. I'm going to have a look online and see. But this eyeshadow palette went everywhere with me. Everywhere. It's like a best friend. And the thing is, it just got used by everybody. If you were on a night out, they'd be like, can I use that? Because there was neutrals. That's probably the most used section, I'm not going to lie. There was greens and blues, like mermaid stuff. There was like this jewel tone section of like plums, golds, stuff like that too. And then at the bottom here, there was the cool toned, grungy, kind of smoky eye shades. It was perfection. This was the best face palette, if you ask me. There were others that came out and I was like, will I buy this, will I buy that? This was the best one. This was hands down the best one. It had a huge ass mirror. Can you see my camera there? And that was another reason why I loved taking it out, because it sat like that, didn't have any dysfunction issues. You know, it stood tall, didn't need any Viagra. It stayed there itself. You could put it down somewhere, look into it and use it. It's phenomenal. It was so good. But before that, let's just talk about this. That's just a favourite, right? Before that, they done these, the Book of Shadows. Do you remember? This is volume 2. Again, just take you down memory lane here. They used to come like this. It came with 2 eyeliners. I do have a couple to hand here to show you. And a primer potion. Do you remember the primer? It was the original bottle, the original one, purple one that actually looked like a little potion. Not the squeezy tube now, although the squeezy tube is probably better to get all the product out now. But do you remember that one? Again, I do not own eyeshadow primer nowadays. I just don't feel the need for it. But I feel like the Urban Decay one was pretty good. People still rave about it. They still talk about it all the time. I feel like despite it being 10, 15 years on, maybe even longer actually. How long ago did that come out? It could be 20 years. How long has the eyeshadow primer been out? I don't know when Primer Potion came out, but they released their larger size of the potion bottle in 2010. So it was out before that, right? That's 14 years ago. And then they rebranded them and put them in the squeezy tubes in 2015. So it's been around for a long fucking time. Back to this palette. So, do you remember these as well? Everybody talks about Space Cowboy, don't they? This right here, I feel was the original. Midnight Cowboy Rides Again. Do you remember this? Everybody used to go absolutely tonto for this. Also, original Perversion, where the mascara and the liner came from. I just feel like there's so much that just gets forgotten about as well. Half-Baked and Twice-Baked also in this original palette here. This was the beginnings right here of the Naked palette. I'm practically a fucking historian right now, yeah? So anyway, we will move on to the success and I would say downfall of Urban Decay. This isn't a video just about Urban Decay. Don't worry about that. But let's face it, 10 years ago, maybe even a little before that, this is an original as well, can I say? An original with the felt packaging. Has been used. Look at it, the mirrors hanging off there. An original. I love it. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it because it is just such a reminder of a time in my life where, again, this went everywhere with me. This went everywhere with me. If it wasn't the Vice one, it would have been this. Like, the 2, I loved them. Obviously, they came out with Naked 2 and 3. This wasn't a favourite of mine. Again, it's a pretty cool toned palette, and if you know me at all, if you're new in this channel, I'm not a big cool toned gal. So I kind of went through a period of this and I used it, but I did not get as much use as I did from the original. And then this one was bought for me from family and friends because they knew that I loved the other 2 so much. And I'll tell you right now, I barely scratched the surface on it. This is such a boring palette. I hated this release. I wanted it, I got it. What a letdown. And I never bought another Naked palette again. I say that. I just didn't bother with them. The Naked Cherry, the Naked Purple, the Naked... They're still bringing Nakeds out now. All of the other ones, I was like, take it and fucking leave it. And then I remember the Naked Heat palette came out. People went fucking crazy for it. I didn't buy that either. Just because I was like, yeah, I'm not so fussed. I'm bored with this Naked stuff. But then they released the Naked Heat Petite. And I fell to that. This just went everywhere with me. If you know me, these are my tones. They've not changed for 15 years. I'm stuck in a rut, shall we say. I like wearing other colours as well, but these are my go-tos. These are the ones I'll always reach for again. And just before we go any further and put some eyeshadow on my lids, because I know I've been talking a while and I've not done anything yet. Do we remember this? The Electric palette. Do we, is there any fans out there, remember this. They got rid of this. They should never have got rid of this. I felt like this was the last sprinklings of the edgy Urban Decay. And then they just lost it. They just went down the naked route and that was it. Gone, gone, gone. They did bring out another kind of colourful one. I can't remember what it was called. And I actually had the Urban Decay, was it Born to Run palette? The one that was like about travel. That is a nice palette. That is okay. I've actually just realised I've not brought that over. That came out a little later on and I think you can still get your hands on that. It's nice, but they just kind of lost their sparkle. So, you know. Also, coming from that era, that original era, can we just talk about singles for a second? There's two missing out here, but I've got them in another palette. I've got a little mini 2-pan palette that sometimes I'll take on holiday because it's easier. MAC shadows. This is not the original MAC palettes, I should say. These are the ones that you get nowadays. But some of these are fucking old. I can't remember when I actually got this palette, but some of these are super duper old. I've had them a very long time. Satin taupe, anybody? Satin taupe? Did we all wear satin taupe? Again, I seen Michaela McDade talking about Belle de Jour. Do you remember Belle de Jour? I mean, I think she's a super big influence. I think she knows the Kardashians now. I think she's a big deal now. But I remember she used to sit on her little apartment in New York on the floor with messy hair. She bought about a million white t-shirts. She'd always talk about wearing white t-shirts. Satin taupe. I remember her talking about it. Another one here. Is it creme brulee? Is this creme brulee? That's Jest. I feel like creme brulee is maybe in the double pan that I've got. Another one, cranberry. Do we remember this? This one here as well is MAC's Chromatic Yellow, I want to say. Fucking fantastic. This one here, Brick House. All fantastic old school. People used to have palette collections, do you remember? Insane palette collections. They would have a pink palette, a green palette, a blue palette, a beige palette. The way that they sell them now, like nude, do. People used to have collections of MAC stuff like that. So we're just going to start putting some stuff on the eyeballs now that I have blabbered on about stuff like that for ages now. I know lots of people will be like, I came here to see you put stuff on your eyeballs. I'm just using concealer. Also an old one. We'll talk about it in a minute. Just to get things going. A beauty sponge. You couldn't have been without one of these. I feel like as well we probably... Kabuki brushes. Do people remember that? A kabuki brush? I don't own any now. I mean, flat top brushes. Yeah, you used to probably call this a kabuki brush back in the day. But I remember the little ones that were like, they used to stand up on their own. People used to go absolutely bonkers for them. Real Technique brushes as well. I feel like I don't see anybody talking about Real Technique brushes anymore. I still think I've got this one here. Do you remember these guys? Nobody talks about them anymore. And they're so good. They are really good, affordable brushes. And I don't see anybody speak about them now. So I am going to use the Naked Heat Petite because it's fucking easy for me to just reach for. But while I am doing that, we went into some rebranding with Urban Decay here. This is the Moondust shadows. These were pop-outable. You can push this out and put them into a pan on their own. And that was kind of them trying to be like, oh, we can be like MAC. You know, we can be like MAC. And it didn't really take off. These are the original ones. This is the original Space Cowboy. I now have it in the new packaging as well because Urban Decay had sent it over to me. However, I have another few. I have this one here, which is called Stargazer, which is like the green version. All right, so I've just popped on these two shades here, not the white one, these two, under the eyes. It's actually such a warm palette. These look kind of neutral, but actually they come off really warm. Shades are Vibrate and Hot Spell. And this was my go-to look. Like, it was so easy. Everybody would warm eyeshadow back in the day. Maybe that's like, you know how some people who were teenagers in the 80s, they still want to wear bright blue eyeshadow and pink lips? No problem with that. I quite fucking like it. But I feel like that's me. I'm stuck in my millennial era. That I'm always going to be wearing warm eyeshadows now. I did like grungy eyes, as you know. I did like all that kind of goth stuff too, but did love a little warm toned eyeshadow. Well, I was just thinking about that as well. Do we remember the Sleek palettes? Do we remember these? The Eye Divine Sleek palettes. This one is blue, right? So this one isn't the one I'm talking about. There was one that was like insanely popular. I remember. People went crazy for these. Also, the Sleek palette that was in the gold thing with the 4 highlighters in it had like a pink one, a blue one, a goldy one. Frosty. Do we remember that? That is still available. That is still on sale. Nobody talks about these anymore. Sleek is a brand. They just don't get spoken about anymore. Why not? Also, eyeshadow pigments. Nobody talks about eyeshadow pigments anymore. MAC, easily the first ones to do it. Well, I'm saying that. They might not actually be the first ones. The first ones I fucking remember doing it. And I'm going to show you these ones. Do you remember these? These bad boys here? That's what I'm talking about. But I feel like as if that's not even the first ones. It was the ones that had like the black top. They were like shorter, fatter ones. That was the ones I always remember seeing. That was the ones in people's mad ass collections that they would show you like as if they had an episode of Cribs, and they would have all their MAC shadows. They would have like nail polish lined up on the walls and all that kind of stuff. Do you remember? MAC pigments. Who talks about them anymore? Nobody. I've got one here. Opal. MAC Opal. Were you anybody if you didn't have MAC Opal? Again, I'm sure it was creme brulee vanilla. Was that another one? Blue brown. That was another one, right? That was also an actual single shadow as well, but I remember it was a pigment. And you know, I just don't see anybody speaking about these things anymore, because I feel like they probably seem a little out of date. The brands have let themselves get a little out of date and out of touch, and the market's probably changed. Like a lot of people who started wearing Urban Decay back in the day and they were like gothy, edgy people, and then they swapped to that naked thing. They lost probably a lot of custom there. I think they're trying to get back to that, as I say, but MAC as well. MAC were like the only people doing that kind of thing for a long time. And then everything just took off and it was like, oh, wait a minute, MAC, you've been left behind in the dust there. They're still really big. They're still one of the biggest selling brands in the world. But I don't think they are one of the most spoken about anymore, especially not specific products. They will have the odd launch every now and again, and I will see things being spoken about. But I feel like there's not just hyped products that we speak about all the time. People used to speak about the skin finishes. What were they called? The like mineral skin finish? What were they called? People went mental for them. They also had the highlighters, like the almost baked highlighters. Do we remember? So many things don't get spoke about anymore, but they actually do still get sold. There obviously have been a few we have lost along the way. Actually, one sitting in front of me right here. Becca. Gone into the ether, because obviously they just went bust and people weren't talking about them enough anymore. And I could go into the ins and outs of like Jaclyn Hill and her palette, and what was the one that she used? Everybody fucking spoke about it all the time. Champagne Pop. That was it, right? Champagne Pop was the one that everybody spoke about. Champagne Pop is not that one. I only have a mini, because I was like, I don't need a full size of that, I'll never get through it. But also Champagne Pop on my skin just didn't go. So actually I have Moonstone. It was one of my favourites, but cannot buy it anymore. It is into the ether, doesn't exist anymore. See if you can think of any other brands that I've maybe forgot at the moment who no longer exist and you're so unhappy that they're not there anymore, or products that have been discontinued. Please drop them down below. I would love to know what you're remembering as you're watching this. Another thing that I remember people talking about all the time, and I don't have one to hand to show you. I'm using this as an example. This is a MAC Studio Eye Gloss in lightly tauped. Okay, so basically looks like a lip balm. Very, very sticky. Looks gorgeous in photos. I wonder if I can zoom you in, you can see. I don't think you're going to get the full effect of this, but it's glossy and it has like these iridescent pink and almost taupey brown sparkles through it. Looks gorgeous in photos. Absolutely horrific on the eyes. Your hair all sticks into it. Awful on the eyes. Only really for photos. But do we remember paint pots? That's the reason that came to mind when I seen this. I was like, MAC paint pots. I had Painterly, I'm sure. And I also had one, was it Rose Quartz? I can't remember what the name of it was. I don't think they do it anymore. And again, people would swear by them. Maybelline 24-hour tattoo, that was the dupe. Remember? So now that I've got a little like matte eye going on, I am going to go into a MAC one. Let's do it. This is MAC's Mythology, which is like this orangey, shimmery, sparkly goodness. Now, obviously, back in the day, you've been doing a fucking cut crease and all that kind of stuff and putting it on. But what I'm going to do is just go in with like a kind of more fluffy brush and spread it over the top evenly. I just kind of want that nice sheen across the lid. Like I say, I feel like this is very old school makeup for me, but also probably kind of can get away with it today. It doesn't look old fashioned with a little bit of a sheen across the top here. But yeah, what I will say is, see, using this now, when you think about the price of MAC Shingle Shadows and all that kind of stuff, using this now, if I bought this today, I think I would be greatly underwhelmed by the effect of it. I loved it back in the day, thought it was fantastic, but actually, let me zoom you in. But looking at it close up, like nowadays, I mean, it's really not doing that much. It's a very, very light sheen a very, very light sparkle. There's not much going on. I would feel a little disappointed today because I feel like nowadays there are more affordable brands doing this stuff so easily. And that's the big change, isn't it? Like back in the day, the more expensive brands were just doing stuff that was completely different, and now they're 10 a penny at the drugstore. This is Paradisco. I feel like this one's got a bit of a good sheen to it as well. So let's try Paradisco instead. We're kind of keeping with that 2024 peach situation, aren't we? Paradisco's done nothing. And that might be because these shadows are too old. I'm not knocking the shadows themselves. They are very old eyeshadows. I feel like remember I'd done a look like this and I was like, most disappointing products. I feel like this look isn't far off that. But what I will say is, like, I can't fault this. This went on like a dream. It is no problem. I could throw it on my eyeballs any day of the week still, to this day. It's fantastic. I'm pretty sure you can still buy it. What I am going to talk about as well, just while I've got you kind of zoomed in here, the 24/7 liners from Urban Decay. Nobody talks about these anymore. Nobody. I don't see anybody talking about these. I have still got Apathy, West and Ink. I had a whole collection. Like, I remember getting it bought for me for Christmas. I think my mum picked them up for me one year. And it was like an array of the colours that they had. There was like a white one, a purple one, a pink. Riot was one as well. I think that was the purpley pink one. They had so many colours in it. So this is a few of the ones I've got left over. West, I remember Bourbon was a colour as well, as this kind of brown one. I don't know if I'm going to bother with that today. I'm telling you why, because I think if I do that, then I'm going to end up like just not... It's very soft still though. Very soft. That didn't take anything. I feel like that's still working. Will we just do a little waterline stuff with it? I feel like another thing that was a must at that time. Lashes. Lashes everywhere. It had to be lashes. We also used those gel liner pots, remember? And we always used like this kind of a brush with it. Those little gel. I think you used to get MAC gel liners. I feel like at the time though, Bobbi Brown, that was the huge one that everybody went absolutely mental for, wasn't it? I am just going to take a little bit of the dark shade from this palette as well and just buff that. Yeah, this is still really, really soft. This eyeliner is actually still really good. So I can't fault that. And that eyeliner, again, easily decades old. I certainly don't suggest that people who are makeup artists go putting products that are out of date on their clients' faces. No. I am a nurse after all. You've got to be cleanly and all that kind of stuff. But I am risking my own skin, my own eyeballs, let's say. And I feel like pencils, powder, stuff like that, they maybe just don't work as well anymore. They don't look as sheeny and stuff. But I feel like a lot of products, like, they're all right. They're still good. They're still good. Keep using them. What I am going to do now is put on some mascara. Now, I don't have any mascaras from back then because obviously that would be a bit worrying. But I feel like I remember, obviously Better Than Sex has been around for a long time. There was Perversion as well. I remember that one. I remember the Smoky Lash from Makeup Forever. Do you remember that one? I also remember Bourjois. Do you remember the double-ended one? It was like the primer and the thing on the other side, the mascara on the other side. I also remember Bourjois had done one and it was called like the Clubbing Mascara. If I can find it, I'm going to stick it here so you can have a look-see. I remember that one. I loved that one. There was a lot of Rimmel ones along the way. But I feel like, and probably Benefit Roller Lash became a staple for me probably around 2014, 2016. Can't think of any kind of other budget ones that I remember people raving about the way they do about like Maybelline Sky High and stuff now. Maybe, again, the CoverGirl stuff, but I never got to grips with that over here. I never actually got my hands on that here. And I don't remember big hype around mascara. Maybelline, that's been around for a while, hasn't it? Maybelline Colossal. Maybelline, was it called Soft and something? I remember Sarah Michelle Gellar advertised it. Full and Soft. Do you remember that? That was a big one too. But I don't really remember. I can't think of one I specifically went back to all the time that is still available now. So what I have went ahead and used there was the IT Cosmetics Superhero Mascara because I feel like that's been around for a little while. I had it in my stash because I got one sent to me and hadn't really used it up. I thought I would try. I don't love it. I'm not going to lie. I think it looks pretty, but it kind of falls down the face a little bit. For the price of it and all that kind of thing. There's better stuff at the drugstore. But I just thought I'd put that on the now. Brows, you're going to say, oh, they should be blocky, big, like, you know, Instagram brows. Again, not something I've done. Probably did put a bit more colour through the front of them than I do now, but not something I've done. So I am not going to go ahead and like go crazy with the brows. I'm just going to do my brows off camera and I'll come back. Alright, so I've put a little gel through the brows. I just used the Makeup Academy Brow Define. Now, I know there will be people watching this who will be like, the Anastasia, like dip brow, whatever the fuck it was, the freeze brow. That was around, people went mental for that. I know there's a million brow products that they went mental for because big blocky brows were such a thing. However, it just wasn't something I was particularly into. I think I had a retractable MAC pencil for a while as well, but it just wasn't a thing I was into. So I can't like kid on as if I've got stuff like that to use because I just wasn't ever buying it. So instead, let's zoom out a little bit and we will do some bronzy stuff. So again, pulled from the archives, NARS Laguna, Benefit Hoola. Still fantastic bronzers that never really get a look in now. Nobody talks about them. Benefit, they don't really get much chat about them anymore. NARS, people still chat about it, but yeah, I think the two of them have just got a little stale. I'm going to put one on one side and one on the other. So let's just take a wee swirly swirl. And I'm going to just give the face a little bronze into... I know already baked underneath, didn't I? I already done that. But again, I am just doing it as per the style I would, because I wouldn't have put a base on. I wouldn't have put a foundation on at this point. So I'm just kind of lightly dusting that there. I still think this is a brilliant bronzer. I still think Hoola is a fantastic bronzer. They do it in all sorts of shades now. I just have the original. But it is a really, really nice one. Still looks really good. I think it's very pretty. Can't fault it. And NARS Laguna. Fantastic. Again. Nobody really speaks about this anymore. People just get bored. They just want the newest, latest thing. It's fantastic. Can't fault it. It's such a nice bronzer. The two, I think the NARS one has a little more sheen to it. And I think that Hoola maybe a little more, I was going to say a little more yellowy bronzy. But actually, they're probably a pretty good match. Again, if you're still using this product, let me know. Because I feel like at this moment in this day and age, we're just like, buy, get the new things, get the new things. I myself fall feel to it all the time. But I feel like as if these are things that have been around for a long time. If you still have one of these and you've panned it, you're getting through it, I want to know about it. Yeah, the Laguna is definitely more sheeny than the Hoola. Definite. Now, as I said, didn't always put base on. Hardly ever. Probably did use a concealer. Now I'm going to use this one today because this is the Lasting Radiance concealer. I used to use this foundation. I don't have it anymore, can't tell you about it. It was a nice sheer foundation and it had a lot of luminosity to it. It has like little bits of mica or whatever the fuck it is that's in it that give it this kind of iridescence almost. Now that is the concealer there. As you can probably see, that is far too dark for my skin. So what I'm going to use this for is mainly like in these areas here, because I do have quite a red schnoz. Nowadays as well, people, I remember back then, they'd be like, don't use a cream over the top of a powder. Like people would go crazy. And I get it. It's not the best idea. Sometimes it makes the products not work together and all that kind of thing. But I feel like now we're a lot more experimental with our makeup and we're like, listen, if it works for you, fucking great. Go ahead, go for it. Don't worry about what people are telling you. So I'm just kind of pouncing that to blend it into the bronzer a wee bit more so it's a little less on the side. Because again, not really a look I always loved. Base, done. Because I just was never a basic girl. I can't help you there. I'm really sorry. I wish I could. But let's talk blush. I don't really think, I can't remember seeing cream blush back in the day. I'm saying back in the day, it was maybe only 10 years ago. But you know what I mean. At the YouTube height of stuff, even in shop, like cream blush, I think, do you remember Ruby and Millie? Does anybody remember Ruby and Millie? I think they done a cream blush. Stila done a cream blush back in the day. I don't think I own it anymore. I had one called Lilium. It was a lip and cheek tint. Not a big thing. Like people didn't talk about it all the time. It was all about the powder blush. And can we just chat about the fact that nobody talks about this anymore? NARS Orgasm. I think NARS have done themselves a disservice because they just spoke about it so much that nobody fucking wants to hear about it anymore. That's the honest truth. Another couple of things that I just wanted to show you here. MAC blushes. Nobody talks about MAC blushes anymore. I know they brought out like soft kind of creamy spongy ones recently. I actually bought one for my mother-in-law for Christmas last year. She loves it. But nobody really talks. This is original packaging, isn't it? They're different now. They've got a little tiny hole now. Like it's a smaller amount you see. Am I right? Nobody talks about these anymore. I don't hear anybody talking about powder blushes from MAC. I really just don't. This one is Breezy and this one is Dolly Mix. Does anybody remember Dolly Mix? It's bright pink. It's bright pink. Like, I would never wear this now, but I've kept it because I can't get rid of it. Again, it's sentimental reasons why I keep these. Today, what I am going to put on is the NARS Orgasm because I've got, I really should put on an orange blush, but I feel like I don't have an orangey powder blush and I don't have any that are kind of in keeping with this video that's, you know, where these products went over the years. So I'm just going to apply this. This is one that's like, it's got that little sheen to it. It's got something in it as well. And then you just bring it, it's like a golden pink. But actually, is it really pinky? People used to go nuts so over Orgasm. It's actually got a really incredibly beautiful sheen to the skin still. And it is very subtle still. Even to this day, I mean, I'm not going to put it across the nose. It would look pink. But the actual blush itself, just wonderful. Still just such a beautiful, beautiful shade. Nobody talks about it now. NARS, that was your own fault. That was your own fault. Now, if we're really going to take this back, we're going to do a frosty highlight. Yeah, I'm going to work in a minute, but let's just do it. Now, obviously, we could talk about the frosty highlights that were there at the time. I mentioned the sleek one. There were a million of them. There was blue ones, there was green ones, there was yellow ones, there was rainbow ones. Do we remember? However, I do not own anything like that. The one that I do still have from the archives, an original, is this from Urban Decay. I told you I was an Urban Decay gal. And it is the Afterglow highlighter. And it is an Aura. It is a pinky shift highlighter. And actually I swatched it on my hand when I was just about to film this. And I was like, wow, that's underwhelming. I don't know if it's because of the powder. It might just be because it's old. That is it there on the hand. Can you see it just there? Kind of. There's not much going on. It might just be because the powder is old. But what I will say, and I'm going to use today, if you want a dupe for a nice pink frosty style of highlighter, Makeup Academy. They've been making these for ages. This is not new. So this is a repurchase for me, but it has been around. I want to say this has been around for a decade. Maybe like 8 years at least. I remember buying one of these a long time ago and, you know, people were wild for these. They done blue ones. I think maybe still do blue ones. They done all sorts of colours of this. That's what people used to do. They'd be doing this crazy, like, glow to the gods. Do you remember? We're like the Tin Man right here. But that's what we used to do. And so I'm doing a super duper frosty, and I am going to put it, you had to put it here, didn't you? Why? Why did we do this? Why did we always do this? This and this. This I still highlight. I still highlight my Cupid's bow. But people always highlighted Cupid's bow, tip of the nose, so we literally looked like the Tin Man. I also feel like we probably took it up here as well at the time. Brow bone. Brow bone. I'm slagging myself here and I'm sitting being like, Jesus, I look like the Tin Man. Not a look I would normally go for. But this product itself is fantastic and is still available. It's so, so good. And I think if you are still looking for that super duper frosty highlight, those are fantastic and very, very affordable. But maybe just let's peel it back from, we didn't need to do this, but I did. I went there. If I could take this off my notes because I've got to go to work. Now again, a setting spray, that would have been there, but I don't really have, I do have one. This one I feel is probably not in keeping with today's, although it's one of these swirly whirly ones. Kind of retro. But I remember the setting sprays, the Smashbox setting spray. Everybody, that Fix Plus, I did have Fix Plus. I've recently got rid of it because it was a tiny one and it was way out of date. People went mad for setting sprays. Mad for it. They used to spray so much on their face. This one is actually like a glow one. Okay, so we're just gonna do this. This was bought for me by my friends for my birthday, so not something I normally buy. But we're doing it. We're doing glow. Now I also feel liquid lips. Liquid lips had to be the thing you wore. Nobody was doing anything else. Nobody was doing anything else. I have classic ones, right? So this is not a liquid lip. I've just said that and that's not what I fucking said. MAC lipsticks. People went wild. The same way I said the nail polish was on the walls, the MAC fucking pigments. There was rows and rows of MAC lipsticks as well. I'm just gonna, Lady Danger? Anybody? Classic. My favourite red, and a MAC lipstick that I still use to this day, is one of the Powder Kiss ones in Devoted to Chili. But my favourite red from MAC, Russian Red. This is just a little mini one. I've never ever purchased it full size because I just have so many red lips, I don't need it. But this has been well and truly loved and used, and is a little dinky one. There's maybe like this much left in it now. But Russian Red was my favourite. Teddy, everybody went crazy for MAC Teddy as well. Stone was a lip liner people went crazy for, but I can't remember if that was a lipstick as well. However, in the day, I was most definitely using Lip Plumper. This is not the original. This is the Too Faced Lip Injection, but it used to come in a black packet and it was a pink bottle. Can you remember? Again, please tell me if you can. What I am going to do just now is I'm going to put this on, because this is what I would used to do. I'd put it on because it would sting the lips. I don't feel this is as good anymore. I don't feel this has the same effect that it used to. It used to. You'd kiss people on the cheek and you would see them half an hour later and their fucking cheek would be throbbing off the side of their face. I don't feel this has the same amount of sting anymore. I am so eager to try the Duck Plump from NYX. I want to know if it's going to do that. I am almost eager for it to do that. I want it to do that. This does not do the same anymore. It just doesn't. I have one from Primark that I'm going to tell you has way more sting and bite to it than that does. Than this. I will tell you about that in another video because I don't have it to hand just now and I'm lazy. But this doesn't give the same anymore. It doesn't give that fucking burning feeling, and I know a lot of people don't like that. I get it. I fucking love it. I love it. I love that kind of like, oh, bringing fucking cinnamon or whatever it was to the top of your lips. Do you remember people doing that? Do you remember people sucking fucking bottle tops to get Kylie Jenner lips? Do you remember that? So, what I would normally do, I would sit with this on, leave it for a minute to gestate and get my lips nice and juicy, and then I would wipe it off and we would go in with a liquid lip. Now, these are old, again. Do you remember first, just before I go into my liquid lip, do you remember these? Lancome Juicy Shakers and Juicy Tubes. Now, they're all coming back now. These are coming back, so just saying. I don't know about these, but the Juicy Tubes style of lip balm, definitely coming back. This is grapefruit. It is old as fuck, but I love it. And I bring it out every summer. Does it smell bad? Actually, it doesn't smell bad, but you know, it's old. It should not be being used. They also had these ones. This is not obviously a juicy shaker. This is just a matte shaker or something. Is that what they were called? Matte shakers? People went crazy for them too. Absolutely crazy for them. These were really, really nice. These were actually very, very nice. And then I feel like this never got enough love. This was one of the Velvet Lip Glides from NARS. This one is called Roseland. I feel like this was possibly one of the most comfortable liquid lips of the time. Like, it really was comfortable because a lot of them, they would dry your fucking lips out. Do you remember the NYX, is it Velvet Suede? I think they still make them. Those ones, there would be loads from brands like Makeup Academy, Rimmel. Like, there were loads of liquid lipstick ranges. Again, Anastasia Beverly Hills, I'm sure, but a classic, Kat Von D. Kat Von D, I feel like might have been the first one I ever really remember in this kind of situation. That and probably Kylie Jenner. And this one is the Queen of Poisons. I would say not a comfortable wear. That is it there, super duper vampy one. Today, because I'm going to my work and because, you know, I have to look somewhat fucking... Oh, why did I not put on Moonstone instead of that pink one? That was stupid. I'm going to use this one from Bourjois because I remember this, and this is old. This is old as fuck. This is their Rouge Edition Velvet. There was a lot of velvet back in the day, and this is in Peach Club, and it was a fantastic budget version. Now, Bourjois actually left the UK for a while, but I see they're back in shops now. So let's see what they're going to do. They'll bring back things like this, I don't know. I feel like that Comfort matte, Comfort liquid lips has came back in the last 12 months, but we're very much into the juicy, glossy, balmy thing at the moment, aren't we? I still love this lip. I still love this fucking look. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, yes, the fucking skin glazing that's going on is too much. It's too much. It's not what I'd fucking do now. But overall, I could get away with this walking down the street now. Maybe Gen Z, you'd be looking at me and being like, oh, she looks like she stepped right out fucking the year 2010. And they'll think I'm pretty old fashioned. But I quite fucking like it. So I really enjoyed doing this video. I really enjoyed doing this video. I love looking at all the things that have been and gone over the years. And I think it puts into perspective a little bit with all these constant new launches all the time, just how cyclical trends can be and how they come back and how they go and all this. Like there's still things that I feel are produced today that just nobody talks about anymore. Things that probably loads of people still use and love and swear by. But we just see things on our phone nowadays, like the palm of our hand. Please watch my 10-year-olds in Sephora video, because I kind of talk about social media and all that on there. But we see it all the time, and there's that constant urge to need to repurchase and all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoyed getting some old makeup out today and having a play and a little trip down memory lane. And I don't hate the look. I really don't hate the look. I think it's quite nice. I really enjoy some of these products. Like I say, a lot of them are still available. Lots of them you can still find. If I can't find them, I'll link them down below if they're still available. There will be many that probably aren't. But tell me down below, what are some of your favourite things? What do you remember from this video? What things have been and gone? What do you wish was still there? Tell me what you used to use. I would love to know. And I will see you all again in the next one. Bye.